I remember saying sorry for everything when someone brushed past me, when I needed help, even when I simply existed too loudly. I'd smile to soften my presence, lower my voice in crowded rooms, laugh quietly so no one would notice. Somewhere along the way, I learned that being invisible was safer than being seen. I didn't realize it then, but that constant shrinking was my way of surviving love that never felt safe. The house I grew up in was never chaotic. It was quiet, orderly, polite, the kind of quiet that presses on your chest. My mother moved through rooms with tired eyes, my father with the weight of silence trailing behind him. No one yelled. No one asked, "How are you feeling?" When I cried, the sound seemed to vanish before it reached anyone's ears. I started to believe my feelings were too much, that needing comfort was a kind of weakness. Psychologists call it childhood emotional neglect, when everything looks fine, but the emotional core of childhood is missing. Harvard researchers found that children need consistent emotional attunement, small things like eye contact, empathy, warmth, to wire the brain for safety and belonging. When those moments never come, the brain adjusts. It learns vigilance instead of connection, survival instead of trust. That's how I learned to become capable, helpful, self-sufficient, the strong one everyone relied on. But under all that competence was a quiet hunger I couldn't name. I wanted to be seen, to be held without earning it. And maybe, deep down, you did too. And when I look back now, I realize it wasn't love itself that was missing. It was something quieter, something more subtle. Emotional attunement, the kind of presence that teaches a child they are safe, that their feelings are welcome, that they matter. When that presence is absent, a child doesn't just feel lonely. Their brain starts to wire itself around that emptiness, teaching them that love is unpredictable, that needing is unsafe, and that silence is survival. Psychologists call this attachment conditioning, the emotional blueprint that forms in early childhood. Every interaction becomes a lesson. When you cry and someone comes, you learn the world is responsive. When you cry and no one comes, you learn that emotions are dangerous. Over time, this pattern becomes a belief system, one that says, don't ask, don't need, don't expect. The child doesn't stop feeling, they simply stop reaching out, because reaching out no longer works. Dr. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, once said that love and connection are as vital as food or air. When that connection is inconsistent, the child's sense of safety collapses. Their brain begins to monitor everything, a parent's sigh, a change in tone, a closed door. It's not sensitivity, it's survival. What looks like composure in adulthood is often the residue of hypervigilance from childhood. A nervous system that learned to stay ready, just in case. Neuroscience has shown that early emotional neglect leaves physical imprints on the brain. Research from Harvard Center on the Developing Child found that children who experience a lack of emotional resonance have elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Their brains stay in a state of watchfulness, wired more for survival than connection. These children often grow up to become adults who appear calm, capable, and rational, yet internally, their bodies are still waiting for rejection. They crave closeness but brace for loss. This is why peace can feel strange, why calm can feel boring, why affection sometimes makes us flinch. Our bodies remember what our minds have forgotten, that love, once upon a time, came with uncertainty. When love is unsafe, the nervous system equates vulnerability with danger. So even when kindness finally appears, we hesitate, we analyze, we pull back, not because we don't want love, but because love feels foreign. Over time, this emotional conditioning shapes everything. How we trust, how we communicate, how we handle conflict. We begin to interpret small silences as rejection or independence as proof that we don't need anyone. But beneath that logic lies a deeper truth. The child in us never stopped needing to be held, to be seen without having to perform for it. That quiet longing never disappears. It only hides beneath competence. And that's the irony of growing up unloved. We often become the strong ones, the capable ones, the ones others depend on. But underneath all that strength is still a small voice whispering, "When will it be safe to rest?" The psychology of not being loved as a child is not about weakness. It's about adaptation. It's about a brain that learned to survive without warmth and a heart that's still learning how to believe in it again. When love wasn't safe in childhood, survival took over. The brain adapted, the heart tightened, and over time those coping strategies crystallize into identity. That's the quiet tragedy of emotional neglect. The survival patterns that once protected us become the very walls that keep us from living fully. On the surface, we appear strong, capable, reliable, but inside, there's a constant hum of vigilance, a low-grade loneliness that never quite fades. It's the kind of emptiness that hides behind a smile and gets mistaken for independence. One of the most persistent effects is emotional disconnection from others and from ourselves. When you grow up having to mute your feelings, you eventually lose the language to describe them. Joy feels distant, sadness feels inconvenient, anger feels dangerous. You might even struggle to know what you want or how you feel. Psychologists call this alexithymia, the inability to identify or express emotions. It's why so many adults who were emotionally neglected as children say, "I don't know what's wrong with me, I just feel nothing." That emotional flatness isn't brokenness. It's the cost of years spent being unseen. Then comes the impact on relationships. Emotional neglect creates a strange paradox. We long for closeness, but fear it at the same time. We crave connection, yet the moment someone gets too close, our nervous system sounds the alarm. We withdraw, test them, or sabotage the bond entirely. It's not because we don't want love, it's because love once meant danger. So we repeat the same cycle, choosing emotionally unavailable partners, mistaking chaos for passion, silence for safety. Deep down, we're not chasing love, we're chasing familiarity. This pattern also bleeds into self-worth. When love was conditional or absent, we internalize the message, "I am only worthy when I am useful." That belief becomes the engine behind perfectionism, overachievement, and relentless self-criticism. You can have a successful career, a beautiful home, a life that looks ideal, yet still feel like a fraud. Every accomplishment becomes temporary relief from an invisible ache. No matter how much you do, it never feels like enough, because the child inside you still believes love must be earned through performance. There's also a more subtle consequence: chronic anxiety and hypervigilance. Growing up without consistent emotional safety trains your nervous system to always stay on guard. You might find yourself scanning for rejection, reading too much into tone or silence, or bracing for something to go wrong even when life is calm. This constant alertness can cause fatigue, sleep issues, and even physical symptoms like tension or headaches. It's exhausting to live in a body that never learned to relax. And then there's intimacy, the most beautiful and terrifying frontier. For those who weren't loved safely as children, vulnerability feels unnatural. Sharing feelings, accepting affection, or even resting in someone's arms can trigger discomfort. We may pull away, joke it off, or intellectualize our emotions just to keep control. But the truth is, what we fear most isn't love itself. It's the exposure that comes with being fully seen. To be loved without earning it feels almost unbearable when you've spent a lifetime earning every drop of affection. The cruelest part of growing up unloved is how easily the past disguises itself as the present. We think we've left it behind, the silence, the distance, the ache of wanting to be seen, but somehow it finds us again in our adult lives, wearing new faces. We fall in love, make friends, chase success, and yet We keep replaying the same emotional story. The details change, but the pattern stays. That's not coincidence. It's the brain trying to resolve what it never got to finish. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar emotional experiences in hopes of finally rewriting them. When a child grows up with emotional neglect, their nervous system learns that love feels distant, unpredictable, or unsafe. As adults, that same nervous system scans for what it knows. So even if we meet someone kind, our body doesn't recognize safety, it recognizes tension. We're drawn, almost magnetically, to people who make us feel the way our parents once did. Unseen, uncertain, striving for affection that never quite comes. This is why so many of us end up in relationships that mirror our childhood wounds. We say, I keep attracting the same type of person, but the truth is, we keep recreating the same type of emotional environment. The unavailable partner feels strangely familiar. The one who withdraws, criticizes, or stays distant fits the emotional blueprint we were handed as kids. Somewhere deep down we think, if I can just make this person love me, maybe I can prove I was lovable all along. It's not self-sabotage, it's self-repair gone wrong. Even outside romance, the cycle continues. In friendships, we might overextend ourselves, taking on the role of the listener, the helper, the emotional anchor, because that's what once earned us connection. At work, we might equate productivity with worth, taking on every task to prove we deserve to exist in the room. In families, we often become the peacemakers, the ones holding everyone together, even if it costs us our peace. Each time we repeat the pattern, it feels familiar, and familiarity feels like safety, even when it hurts. This loop is not a failure of willpower. It's the brain's attempt to seek resolution. The mind doesn't want to repeat the pain, it wants to repair it. But healing can't happen by reliving the same story with new characters. It begins with awareness, with noticing the moment we start chasing what hurt us, the moment we confuse effort with love, or silence with stability, the moment we realize we're still trying to earn what should have been given freely. Breaking the cycle doesn't mean rejecting love, it means learning to recognize real love when it appears, the kind that feels calm, not thrilling, the kind that stays, not tests, the kind that listens, not withdraws. For those of us who grew up with emotional neglect, that kind of love can feel foreign at first, too quiet, too steady, but that's how safety feels. It's not intensity, it's peace. And peace, to an unloved mind, takes practice. In time, we begin to see the pattern for what it is, not a curse, but a message. A message from the child who still wants closure, still wants proof that love can be safe. Healing begins when we stop seeking that proof from others and start giving it to ourselves. Because the truth is, the cycle ends, not when someone finally loves us right, but when we finally stop believing we were ever unlovable. Healing doesn't begin with forgetting the past. It begins with noticing how the past still lives inside you. The nervous system that once learned to flinch at love doesn't change just because you understand your story. Awareness is the doorway, but practice is the rewiring. Healing means teaching your brain, gently and repeatedly, that love no longer equals danger, that safety isn't a performance, that being seen won't hurt anymore. The first step is recognition. Start noticing the small triggers that make your body tense, a text left unread, a raised voice, a long silence. Instead of judging your reaction, get curious. Ask yourself, what is my body remembering right now? This question turns reactivity into reflection. According to Dr. Bessel van der Kolk in The Body Keeps the Score, The body holds on to trauma long after the mind forgets. Each moment of curiosity interrupts the automatic fear loop. You're teaching your brain to pause, to choose awareness over survival. Next comes reconnection, learning to feel again, safely. Emotional neglect often leaves us numb, cut off from our inner world. To rebuild that connection, start small. Each day, name one feeling you notice, not fine, but specific words like lonely, hopeful, tense, or peaceful. You're strengthening neural pathways that were never fully developed in childhood. Harvard's research on emotional attunement calls this the serve and return mechanism. When feelings are acknowledged, the brain wires for trust. You can offer that same attunement to yourself now. Then, practice self-compassion. This isn't about indulgence, it's about repair. When you make a mistake, notice the impulse to criticize yourself. Instead, say what a loving parent would. It's okay. You're learning. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. Dr. Kristin Neff's studies on self-compassion show that gentle inner dialogue activates the same soothing systems in the brain that early attachment once did. Every time you respond kindly to your pain, you're reparenting the child inside you, the one who never heard those words when they mattered most. The next step is safe connection. Healing from emotional neglect doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in relationship. Find one person who feels emotionally steady, a friend, a therapist, a partner, and let yourself be seen in small ways. Say, "I'm having a hard day," or "I could use some company." When that person responds with care instead of rejection, your nervous system learns something new. Connection can be safe. Over time, those small repeated experiences start to overwrite years of hypervigilance. Another key practice is rest, not just physical, but emotional. For people who grew up unloved, rest feels wrong, even shameful. But rest is how the body learns safety. Let yourself do nothing without guilt. Let yourself be without proving. The brain heals through stillness as much as through insight. In those quiet spaces, you begin to feel the difference between peace and emptiness, between loneliness and solitude. That difference is where healing settles in. And finally, forgiveness, not as absolution, but as release. Forgiveness here doesn't mean pretending your parents did no harm. It means acknowledging their limitations while refusing to let their absence define your capacity to love. You stop waiting for the apology that may never come, because you realize it's no longer needed. You have become the presence you once lacked. You have become your own safe place. Healing from not being loved as a child isn't fast or linear. It's a slow remembering that love was never something to be earned, only something to return to. One breath, one feeling, one safe connection at a time, you are teaching your nervous system a new truth. It's safe to be here. It's safe to feel. It's safe to love again. There's a moment in healing when you stop trying to become who you were before the pain and start becoming who you were meant to be after it. For a long time, I thought wholeness meant fixing myself, erasing the parts that were wounded, becoming normal. But healing isn't about becoming new. It's about remembering the pieces you buried to survive and gently bringing them home. I used to think that the child I once was, the quiet one, the overthinker, the people pleaser, was something to outgrow. But now I see that child differently. They weren't weak, they were brilliant. They learned how to read a room before they could read words. They learned to protect themselves when no one else could. They didn't fail to receive love. They built a map for survival in a world that forgot to give it. The work now isn't to silence that child. It's to hold them, to say, "You did everything you could, and now you can rest." This is the heart of rewriting the story, realizing that what once felt like brokenness was actually intelligence. an adaptation. The walls you built weren't flaws, they were proof of how much you wanted to live. The numbness, the distance, the constant self-control, all of it made sense then. But now, the danger is gone. The survival map no longer fits the landscape. And when you begin to see that, something inside you exhales for the first time in years. Psychologists call this stage integration, when the wounded self and the functional self stop fighting and start working together. It's when you stop living like two people, the strong adult who has it all together and the quiet child still waiting to be seen. Integration is when you realize they were never separate, that both were always you, the one who survived, and the one who's learning to live. Healing doesn't erase the past, it changes your relationship with it. You stop asking, why didn't they love me? And start asking, why did I believe that made me unworthy? That single shift transforms pain into power, because when you understand that your worth was never up for debate, every relationship, every goal, every choice begins to change. You stop performing and start being. You stop searching for mirrors and start becoming light. And that's how the story rewrites itself, not with a dramatic ending, but with quiet repetition. Each time you choose self-compassion over criticism, connection over avoidance, rest over perfection, you are rewriting the narrative. You are proving to your brain and to your heart that love is not something you lost, it's something you are rebuilding from the inside out. So maybe wholeness isn't about healing back to who we were before the neglect. Maybe it's about finally becoming someone who no longer confuses love with pain, someone who can sit in stillness without fear, someone who no longer apologizes for existing. The absence that once defined you becomes space for peace, for presence, for you. And that right there is the quiet miracle of being human. You can't rewrite your childhood, but you can rewrite its echo. If these words echoed something inside you, take a moment, breathe, and let yourself feel seen. You're not alone in this. We all carry stories we never got to tell, and maybe this is your time to start. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it too. Not to fix them, but to remind them that love was never lost, only waiting to be found again, right here within us.